same end goal, finding solutions to problems. I've recently loved using research as a way to solve problems that come up in my everyday life. Today, I, Aditi Srikanth, want to discuss a problem that's been plaguing me for years and that I may have found a possible solution to through research: stress. I have a love-hate relationship with stress. I hate the way it makes me feel and how it consumes me in pressurized situations. However, I've realized recently that not all stress is actually bad stress. Let me tell you why. You see, my stress really began to develop when I was in middle school. I think that's common for a lot of us here today. I mean, in middle school, we really start developing insecurities about ourselves. We start overthinking about who we're going to sit with at the lunch table, what clothes we're wearing, and who we're going to play with at recess. However, one of my greatest fears was high school. Ironic, right? Whenever I would look down that vortex of my upcoming years, I was terrified, frankly. Why? Well, because I was scared that the amount of responsibility and APs and extracurriculars would just make me feel worse than how I was already feeling. When I did get to high school, I actually found it to be a different experience. Although I undoubtedly had a lot more to focus on, I actually felt a lot less overstretched than I ever did in middle school. Crazy, right? It wasn't until recently that I began to wonder why I was feeling so calm about what had been previously the bane of my middle school existence. After doing some research, I actually found some interesting information. Do you know that certain types of stress can be good for you? To start, I want you to imagine, I'm pretty sure that all of us have had to write an essay, but you procrastinated until the very last second to write it because you just dreaded doing it. But then, you actually were able to complete it before the deadline. Even though that was definitely not at your best mental state, you still managed to get it done. Or, for all the adults in the audience today, have you ever taken on a project at work that was just a little too big, only to realize that you somehow found it within yourself to complete it? You probably did. There was actually an interesting study that supports this theory. Researchers at UC Berkeley found that after lab rats experienced briefly stressful stimulative events over a long period of time, they actually found that their nerve stem cell content had increased, thereby increasing their mental performance after 2 weeks. The conclusion drawn was that having small, stressful events occur over a long period of time actually makes the brain more alert, and you tend to work a lot better when you're alert. This helps explain why I was able to not struggle as much in high school, was because my brain had found a way to adapt to it. I'm sure some of us are still wondering, that's not true. I feel stressed all the time, and I feel awful. That's completely true. I'm not trying to make this seem like you get to procrastinate on all your essays from now on. What I'm trying to say is that perhaps there's a different perspective to be taken on stress, and that it's most definitely not all detrimental. It can actually increase our cognitive and behavioral performances, but it is the question of how much, how long, and how we interpret or perceive it. To summarize, here's a model. I want you to imagine a cup filled with water. The cup represents your brain, and the water represents all the responsibilities we carry in life. I want you to fill that cup to the brim, to the point where if you even add a drop more, it will overflow. Add even more water. The cup's probably overflowing, and there's a big mess surrounding that cup, but what do you have in the end? Still 1 cup of water, right? You see, that's what the brain does. It is able to adapt and handle everything that goes on in our lives. So long as we do not add an unhealthy amount of stress or add too much water to that cup, we can use stress as a tool to further our behavioral and cognitive performance in anything we set our minds to. Thank you.